Hey guys, it's Posty, and you're watching Tolarian Community College. Make sure to hit like and subscribe, and make sure to hit that bell icon for notifications. Have you ever experienced games that have dragged on for far too long? Games that have no business continuing except to bore the group, but not so obscenely dreadful to where scooping seemed appropriate.
Well, many Magic the Gathering players, if not all, have experienced this at some point in their Commander games, and today we will be going over how to end the game.
A finisher is a card or combination of cards that provides you access to winning the game. Think of a finisher as a setup for your win and the win con that causes the win itself.
A win condition is a strategy, such as combat damage or mill, that enables you to win the game, and usually right off the heels of playing your finishers. Your win condition is the payoff and advantage you received from playing your finishers, which will end the game in your victory.
Now, while some win conditions are more pronounced as cards like Thassa's Oracle or Coalition Victory, a win condition is only an idea or objective you're looking to complete and not really an actual card.
Winning with Thassa's Oracle goes much along the lines of saying winning with Craterhoof Behemoth. If winning with Craterhoof Behemoth outlines the win condition of winning with combat, winning with Thassa's Oracle outlines the win condition of winning with an empty library. To get an exact idea of what I mean by this, let's look at an example.
A tale of two win cons. The Craterhoof method. Let's say you have a proverbial forest full of elf tokens and other elves on your battlefield. You have an immense amount of creatures, but they're not very big and can't do significant enough amount of damage to win against your three opponents.
This is a prime opportunity for a finisher such as Craterhoof Behemoth to boost your damage output for the turn to insanely high levels. Craterhoof Behemoth's Enter the Battlefield trigger will give each of your creatures +25/+25 and trample until end of turn, which is more than enough for elf tokens now to attack and trample over your opponents to victory.
Here, Craterhoof Behemoth is the finisher in this scenario because it allowed us to complete the objective that was our win condition, winning with combat.
Let's look at an example here with Thassa's Oracle. The Thoracle method. In this scenario, our win condition is winning with an empty library. There are several cards that make this win condition viable, like Laboratory Maniac, Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, and Thassa's Oracle.
Kinnan, Bonder Prodigy, is a 2/2 human druid with a triggered ability that adds an additional 1 mana whenever you tap a non-land permanent for mana. Basalt Monolith is an artifact that taps to add 3 colorless mana and can untap itself for 3 mana. With Kinnan on the field, Basalt Monolith taps for 4 mana. You can untap itself for 3 mana, leaving us with 1 net mana each time we untap the monolith. As you can see here, we have what people in the business like to call an infinite mana engine.
Thrasios, Triton Hero, is a 1/3 merfolk that has the activated ability to scry 1 and draw the top card of our library if it's a non-land, or put it onto the battlefield tapped if it isn't. Thrasios is a payoff for our infinite mana generated by Kinnan and Basalt Monolith. Thrasios' ability will draw our entire library, and all the lands we have left in our deck will be on the battlefield.
With our library empty, we can then win with something like Thassa's Oracle, which has the triggered ability when Thassa's Oracle enters the battlefield, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is your devotion to blue. Put up to 1 of them on top of your library and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. If X is greater than or equal to the number of cards in your library, you win the game. And it's the most confusing card ever.
Unlike our Craterhoof example from before, this one has more moving parts. Believe it or not, neither the Infinite Mana Engine nor Thrasios were our finishers. Alone, our Infinite Mana Engine could produce infinite mana, but that infinite mana doesn't output to anything by itself. Our win also wouldn't be possible if we didn't have a card like Thassa's Oracle to provide an alternate win condition.
Thus, the combination of both Kinnan, Basalt Monolith, Thrasios, and Thassa's Oracle became the cohesive finisher for our win con. As we can see, there are multiple win cons in the Commander format. Even more so, there are multiple finishers to those win conditions. It's what makes this format so expressive and exciting.
Hey, all roads lead to Rome. However, while we can talk about all the different ways we can finish the game, it's best we look at what are the ways we can win the game, the win conditions. In knowing the ways we could win, we can decide what finishers we can use and how to achieve that win.
And this is completely subjective. You may find that you have your own categories for win conditions. Nevertheless, it's good to have a clear idea of what we're trying to achieve as our win con when building or playing with a deck. Here are some, but not all the ways you can win in Commander. Combat. This is the most classic and standard way of winning in Commander. And while it may seem self-evident or basic, you'll find there can be a lot of varieties and complexities to winning with combat. Do you want to win with one large alpha strike using a giant crater hoof behemoth? Maybe your swing is more towards Voltron, where you attack with Malignus and a Dictate of the Twin Gods. Or do you prefer commander damage or infect using Grafted Exoskeleton in Triumph of the Hordes? If you're into infinite combos, you can even do infinite combat steps with finishers like Godo, Bandit Warlord, and Helm of the Host. Or Rionia, Fire Dancer, and Combat Celebrant. Who says combat needs to happen on your turn? Stick an Assault Suit on Ruhanda the Fumari and see where it goes.
Mill. As a win condition, the focus on mill is depleting our opponent's libraries and forcing them to draw from it after all is said and done. And while this may also sound straightforward, there are some slight variations to the strategy. The idea of milling is taking the top card of your opponent's library and putting it into their graveyard. You can also, however, force them to draw their entire library using something like Hive Mind and Mind Spring. If you're able to generate large or infinite value for X, you can cast Mind Spring with X being greater than the number of cards in your opponent's decks. Hive Mind triggers on your casting Mind Spring, and will then make a copy of Mind Spring for each of your opponents. Those copies will go above your copy of Mind Spring on the stack, causing your opponents to draw out their entire decks before you do. Milling may not be part of your initial win condition game plan, but it can also be improvised. If, say, an opponent has a Notion Thief and you have more cards in your deck than they do, casting Enter the Infinite will cause them to lose the game. If all of this sounds diabolical, underhanded, and nefarious, then maybe milling is the thing for you.
Direct damage and life total adjustments. Maybe you find milling to be a little too convoluted, but still think combat is too brutish of a sport. Consider the direct damage approach. You could go for the slow burn where existence is pain using cards like Tobrin, Thane of the Red Fel, and Sulfuric Vortex. Maybe set your life total to 1 with Necropotence only to cast a Repay in Kind and finish each of your opponents with the simple Extort mechanic. Or go infinite with Heliod and Walking Ballista. There are many different ways for us to win a game of Commander without having to get our hands dirty through combat, and they can still be very satisfying. I win, you lose. But why stop there? What better way to win a game than simply playing a card that says, you win the game? Like Approach of the Second Sun with Dig Through Time to speed that clock. Show your opponents through the door with the Prototype Portal, making multiple copies of Door to Nothingness. Or just win by an action with Azur's Elocutors. As you may have noticed, some of the finishers from these win cons can be mix and match. Maybe use that Tobran with your combat plans and wipe your opponents by attacking with a bunch of 1/1 red goblins. What's to say we stop there with attacking?
Let's throw in some direct damage using Perforos, God of the Forge. A deck isn't necessarily defined by a single win condition, as it can embody multiple win conditions. A good way to think about choosing win conditions is to visualize what winning the game looks like for you. If you're unfamiliar with how to do that, then just start with the 4 kinds of win conditions that we've suggested here.
Maybe there's a commander you really like. Think about what kinds of win conditions that commander could enable. Maybe you already have a few pet favorite cards of yours and you should ask yourself, can those cards be finishers to a win condition you feel comfortable playing?
In choosing how you want to win, what to win with, and when to win, you want to discuss this with your play group. So this is best done with pre-game discussions. For more information on how to discuss these details, you can check out my video with Joe Johnson of I Hate Your Deck, in which we discuss the Rule Zero talk.
I hope this video has been a great help and of use to you. If you have your own finishers and win conditions that you would like to share, by all means post them in the comments below.
Oh, post them in the comments below. I see what you did there.
Maybe one day I'll win a game too.